In a room across the desert ocean, Stephen smiled as he looked at his phone. The screen showed a picture of his wife, Emily, and his son Leo laughing. As Emily held Leo, the warmth of that love filled Stephen's heart. When Emily's call came from back home, he would forget all his fatigue. Their conversations would last for hours. "Did Leo fall asleep, Emily?" he asked affectionately. "Yes, he did, dear. He told me a lot of stories before he went to sleep. He asked about you. I told him I'd be back next month. I'll bring him a lot of toys." Stephen's voice was full of joy. "Don't waste the money you earn with so much difficulty on toys. We are happy here just being with you." Emily's voice was like a gentle song. Even while toiling in the searing heat of a distant land, Stephen's mind was filled with thoughts of his wife and son. Every moment without them felt like an eternity. His dream was to build a small house and a good life for them. His love and trust for Emily ran deep. As she called each day to share the small details of her life, his mind felt as if it was soaring in the courtyard of their home. Leo's little pranks and Emily's minor pouting were the greatest joys of his life. The meals they shared, the moments of laughter, the days he took Leo to school, all these memories filled Stephen's mind like a sweet melody. His world was his family. He trusted Emily blindly. His only goal in life was to keep his wife and son safe. Happy that he had booked a ticket to go home next month, he lay down to sleep. His mind was filled with dreams of the next day. He smiled at the thought of seeing his loved ones in person. Then tragedy struck Stephen's life like a flash flood. The phone call came just as he was preparing to leave for home. It was his friend, Simon. His voice was trembling, and he spoke in broken words. Stephen was shocked. He understood that something had happened to Leo. He returned home on the very next flight. When Stephen arrived home, his world had completely collapsed. People were gathered in front of the house. Inside, Emily lay unconscious. Simon's face was filled with sorrow. He placed a hand on Stephen's shoulder to offer comfort. "What happened, man?" Stephen sobbed. "He went to bathe in the river. He slipped and fell." Simon struggled to get the words out. Stephen ran inside. When he saw his son's lifeless body, he collapsed to the floor, his strength gone. Emily's wails echoed through the room. Stephen couldn't even cry for them. It felt as if his tears had dried up. Days passed. Stephen lived in Leo's memories. He held his little clothes, his toys and his school bag close to his heart. Emily's grief was beyond what she could bear. She didn't talk much and barely ate. She sat silently huddled in a corner. "Emily, I know this is hard to bear, but we have to live for each other," Stephen tried to console her. Tears streamed from her eyes. She couldn't say a word. In the midst of this, Emily's behavior started to change slightly. After a few days, she seemed to be slowly returning to normal life. Stephen didn't notice, but Simon did. Her late-night phone calls, the strangers who came to the house. He watched her secretly. Stephen's mental state pained Simon deeply. He had completely fallen apart. Simon tried his best to pull Stephen out of his grief, but his efforts were in vain. Simon too believed that Leo's death was a normal accident. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Stephen's mind was drowning in the darkness of his sorrow, but Simon's mind was restless. The changes in Emily's behavior after the tragedy bothered him greatly. Her secret late-night calls, staying in her room, and the strange expressions on her face at times made him suspicious. One day Simon went to Stephen's house and didn't see Emily. When he asked where she was, Stephen said, "She's gone to see my mother." Stephen still believed Emily's words blindly. A doubt arose in Simon's mind. He immediately called Stephen's mother. "Simon, I'm here. Do you need anything?" she asked. Simon was shocked. Emily was not there. He left without saying anything to Stephen. He decided to follow Emily. He followed her as she got into a car and drove to a hotel in the city. There, she was waiting for another man. Simon saw them hold hands and enter the hotel. Simon returned home, a storm raging in his mind. How could he tell Stephen this? Stephen's life was built on a huge lie. If he knew the truth, would he mentally collapse? But as a friend, he knew it was his duty to save Stephen from this deception. The next day, Simon went to see Stephen. "Stephen, I have something to tell you," Simon said in a low voice. "What is it? Is something wrong?" "I know you are going through a lot of pain right now, but you need to know the truth. Simon said hesitantly. Stephen looked at Simon, not understanding. Simon then explained everything he had seen. His words echoed in Stephen's ears. "What are you saying?" Stephen stood up, shocked. "Are you talking about my Emily like this? I trust her blindly. She would never betray me. What's wrong with you?" Stephen's words pained Simon even more. "Stephen, I'm telling you what I saw. It's okay if you don't believe me, but you can test her yourself," Simon said. A spark of fire fell into Stephen's mind. Simon didn't reveal that Leo's death was a murder, because he was afraid to say something to Stephen without proof. These doubts caused pain in Stephen's heart. He couldn't believe Simon's words, but at the same time he couldn't dismiss them either. Stephen's mind became a furnace. He had to know if Simon's words were true. But he didn't know how. As a husband, he wanted to trust Emily. But the sincerity in Simon's eyes made him think otherwise. He decided to take Simon's advice and test Emily. The next morning he prepared for a trip. He made Emily believe he was going back to the distant land. Sadness filled her eyes. She hugged him and said, "Come back soon, dear, I can't be without you." Her words made Stephen shiver. Was there an evil intent behind these words? His suspicion returned. As he left, there was no change in Emily's expression, not a smile, not a single word of a lie. She saw him off. But Stephen didn't look back. He pretended to go to the airport and instead took a room in a city hotel. Simon was with him. The silence of the hotel room haunted Stephen's mind. He shivered in the cold air conditioning. His mind was a restless sea, like a stormy ocean. He went to the window and looked at the busy city life. He realized how alone he was in this crowd. His eyes filled with tears. He took out his son's photo and looked at it. "Leo, my son, did you know how much your mother hated you? I lived only for you." Stephen caressed the photo. His mind told him to call Emily. He took his phone and, with trembling hands, dialed her number. "Did you get there, dear?" Emily's voice was as calm as a river. "I got here, Emily." "I'm not feeling well," Stephen said, his voice trembling. "You should take care of yourself. I'm happy here." Her words shocked Stephen. There was no change in her voice. Normally, when he would leave, she would cry and ask him to come back soon. But now, there was no change. Her conversation made him even more suspicious. His mind whispered that Simon's words were true. He was hesitant to believe it. But a fear deep inside made his body shiver. Simon hadn't revealed that Leo's death was a murder. But a fear crossed Stephen's mind. Will some tragedy happen to him as well? Stephen hung up the phone. He looked at Simon. His eyes were filled with both fear and anger. "She's betraying me, isn't she, Simon?" Stephen sobbed. Simon didn't say anything. He held Stephen's hand to comfort him. "We'll find the truth," Simon said. "Where would she be now?" Stephen asked. "Should we go to her house and check?" Simon suggested. Stephen made up his mind. He was ready to face the truth, no matter how hard it was. Through the busy city streets, Stephen and Simon drove to Emily's house. Stephen's mind was a mix of fear and anger. He knew what he was about to see. Yet, a faint hope remained that maybe Simon was wrong. Maybe all his suspicions were for nothing. This thought pained him. In the dead of night, they arrived at the house. It was pitch black all around. They walked through the grass to the back of the house. Stephen's heart ached as he felt like a thief entering his own home. Hiding behind a window, they looked inside. Inside, Emily and a man were sitting, laughing, holding hands. A shiver ran through Stephen's body. His eyes filled with tears. Simon's words were true. Stephen remembered the man's face from a wedding he had attended a while back. Their conversation slowly fell upon Stephen's ears. "The obstacle in our lives is gone," the man said. "Yes, the son everyone thought died in an accident." Emily laughed. Stephen's heart felt as if it had stopped. Tears streamed down his face. He leaned against Simon's chest and stood there in pain. "I went through so much to get rid of him. He was an obstacle to our relationship," Emily said. "He wasn't our child, so I didn't feel that much sorrow," the man continued. "Don't think I wasn't sad because he didn't grow in my womb. But he was the only one who gave me happiness in my life." Emily's eyes gleamed with an evil smile. "Now we need to decide what to do about Stephen. Before he comes back, Baleen, the man said. Yes, if we get rid of him too, all my properties will be mine. Then we can live together. Emily's words pierced Stephen's heart like a dagger. Stephen's mind was shattered. His body went weak. Simon held him tightly so he wouldn't fall. Stephen sobbed. His grief gave way to anger. The two people he loved most in the world had betrayed him. His son's death was not an accident. It was a murder they had planned. His heart was broken. The fire for revenge started to burn in him. Stephen's heart was shattered like a glass. In that dark room, only he and Simon were left. The laughter of Emily and her lover echoed in his ears. In that laugh, he saw the cruel joy of his son's murderer. He leaned on Simon's shoulder and sobbed. A storm of pain and anger raged within him. What are you saying, man? My son? He died in an accident, didn't he? My son? They killed him. His voice trembled. Stephen, I told you from the beginning. But I couldn't prove it. Simon held him tightly. Stephen's mind went back to his memories. His son's laughter, his mischief, his innocent eyes, these scenes haunted him. Tears flowed from his eyes. The realization that all his dreams and hopes were part of a betrayal broke him. His body was weak, but his mind grew stronger. I will take revenge, Simon. I will kill them. A fierce look flashed in his eyes. Stephen, you must calm down. Let's go back, Simon said. No, Simon, I'm not going back. All the goodness in my mind is gone. Now only revenge remains. I see all the evil in the world in my wife and her lover. Stephen's words were as solid as rock. They returned to the hotel. Stephen said nothing on the way. His eyes were on fire. In the hotel room, he screamed like a madman. His mind was haunting him. The next morning, Stephen went to his son's grave. His tears had dried up. He knelt in front of the tombstone and cried, Leo, my son, it's my fault this happened to you, but I will take revenge. I will get justice for you. He caressed the grave. When Stephen returned, his face was very calm, but his eyes held the cruelty of a killer. He held Simon's hands and said, No turning back, Simon. My last bit of goodness is broken. Now, only revenge. Stephen realized that the last bit of goodness in his heart had broken. He was no longer just a man. He was driven by an intense desire for revenge against those who had taken his son's life. After returning to the hotel room, he told Simon about his plan. Simon, they killed my son. They must receive a harsh punishment. I will end them with my own hands. Stephen's voice was devoid of emotion, hard as iron. Simon, we can inform the police. Let them get their legal punishment, Simon said. Stephen stared at Simon for a moment. The law? Who has the law? The law in this world is in my hands. If you tell them they killed my son, they will be released, because there's no proof. Leo is my son. To get justice for him, I will take the law into my own hands. His words silenced Simon. Simon realized how dark Stephen's mind had become. The horror he saw in his eyes frightened him. But Simon couldn't abandon his best friend. Seeing Stephen's state, he decided to stand by him. Stephen contacted some of his old friends on the phone. They were loyal to him, they had their own things to deal with, but they were surprised to hear Stephen's words. But understanding his situation, they decided to help him. They secretly arranged for the weapons and other things they needed. In the dead of night, they gathered in the hotel room. Stephen planned their moves like a soldier. Every moment, his mind was only on revenge. Stephen chose a rainy night. The wildness of nature reflected the intense emotions in his mind. We're going at night, Stephen said. In the rainy night, no one will see us. They left in the car. Stephen had only one goal: to eliminate his son's murderers. There was no emotion on his face. Simon looked at his face. There was a look of a madman's intense obsession. Simon was terrified by what he saw. Lightning flashed, tearing through the sky. Raindrops fell heavily on the ground. On that night, even nature seemed to stand with Stephen's emotions. A look of terror was in his eyes. Everyone who came with him looked at him with fear. Simon's hands were trembling as he drove. Stephen, there is still time to turn back. Let's go back, Simon pleaded. Stephen looked at Simon with a smile. There was no mercy in that smile. Turn back? What are you saying? My son's soul has brought me here. This revenge is justice for my son. They stopped the car in front of Emily's house. Stephen knew that because of the darkness and the rain, no one would notice them. His mind was calm. He got out of the car, opened the door, and went inside. Simon was with him. When they entered the house, Emily and her lover were sitting and talking. They weren't afraid at all. They turned back when they heard Stephen's voice. "Stephen!" Emily's eyes widened. "You believed I was going back, but I didn't trust you." Stephen's voice was low, but had the power of a lion's roar. Emily's and her lover's faces turned pale with fear. Fear filled their eyes. They stood up, but Stephen's friends overpowered them. The lover was tied to a chair. Emily's hands were tied in front of him. "Stephen, this is a joke. What's wrong with you?" Emily's voice trembled. Stephen went closer to her. "What's wrong with me? Did you know what was wrong with you when you planned to kill our son? What was wrong with you when you murdered my son with your lover?" Fear filled Emily's and her lover's eyes. They were terrified by Stephen's cruel look. "Stephen, we didn't do anything wrong," Emily said. "No? You have made many mistakes. And now I will give you the punishment for them," Stephen said. Stephen asked his friends to throw Emily. They threw her like a puppet in front of her lover. Emily's screams echoed in the house. The lover closed his eyes and screamed. His face was pale with fear. "You two can go to hell together." Stephen's voice sounded like a madman's roar. Later, two unrecognizable bodies are found on a railway track. At the same time, the story ends with the hero flying back to the distant land from the airport.